Today, I've got 5 essential tips for keeping your camera gear safe in the rain. So spring is here, and that means rain for a lot of us. And I find that getting out in the rain, the early spring, is a great time to get out and practice your landscape photography. Inclement weather can lead to some great conditions to photograph in, some interesting effects, interesting skies, and just fog, all of that good stuff. But what about your camera gear? If it's raining, how do you keep it safe? And I've got a workshop coming up shortly, and right now the long range forecast is looking like some possible showers on that day, and I run my workshops rain or shine. So it has me thinking, what are some tips I can pass along to my clients before they come to the workshop? So with that, I've come up with 5 tips to help protect your camera gear in the rain. So let's jump into those tips. So one of the things you can do if you're into landscape photography and out in the rain a lot is you can invest in weather sealed gear. So for example, what I have here is the Nikon Z7 II with a Nikon 24-120 lens, and both of these are weather sealed. That means they're designed to be resistant to dust, moisture, all those crazy elements that you happen to see in landscape photography. So as I've continued my landscape photography work, making sure I choose gear that is weather resistant is helpful. Like I said, I like to get out into the inclement conditions when it's raining, when it's snowing, when it's, just those crazy weather conditions. I think you can make for some interesting images. So by making sure I have weather sealed gear, that helps make sure my camera and equipment is protected. So this camera is, it can handle light drizzle, it can handle showers, heavy rains, it can handle. I do try to protect it in those situations, which we're going to talk about in one of my future tips. But if you're going to keep doing landscape photography and you find yourself out in these conditions, invest in some weather sealed gear, both for your camera body and your lenses, to help give you peace of mind. Okay, but what if you're new to landscape photography, you've got your first camera, you've got one of those starter kits and it's not weather sealed, or perhaps you're like me and you happen to have a travel camera like this. This is a Lumix GX85 with just a kit lens on it, and it is not weather sealed. What do you do in that case? Don't feel like you can't get outside in the rain even with a starter level camera that's not weather sealed. There's some tips and tricks to help you with that, and it's a rain sleeve. So a rain sleeve is something that can cover your camera. Let's grab my other one real quick, because this is probably more representative of the size of camera a lot of people are out with. But they make different types of rain sleeves. They make big, heavy, thick, professional ones. Think Tank makes some. And I actually used to have a Think Tank rain sleeve, but I really didn't like it, especially for landscape photography, where really I'm putting a rain sleeve on for just a little bit. But essentially a rain sleeve covers it, lets you have access to the controls. Usually you can put your hands up here behind, and it's covering the whole camera. Like I said, they make nice rain sleeves. I even looked for my Think Tank one to try to find it for this video so I could show you, and I couldn't find it because I just don't use it that often. There's a couple better alternatives that I like to protect it, and I will put a rain sleeve on this camera in torrential downpours, super heavy rains where it's going to be sustained, because even with the weather sealing, I like to keep it protected. And like I said, if you're using a camera that doesn't have weather sealing, a rain sleeve is a great way to go. So let's take a real quick look at a couple options. But this is my favorite option. This is a Rain-Tech rain sleeve. It's just plastic, super small, can fit in the pack real easy. You can keep them in the camera bag. They don't take up a lot of space, don't weigh a lot, and they're there if you happen to need them. Also, you can keep them in the car, anything like that. So super handy. I'll prefer them over the extended use rain sleeves from Think Tank. I just think these are easier to use. Even once they're on, I just feel like it's easier to get to the camera controls because they're usually a little oversized and stuff. So let's open this one up and take a look at this real quick. It's just this rain sleeve. There's 2 of them in here. This is the small version. They make a large version, so if you're using a big telephoto lens, you can get the large version. But essentially, you open this guy up. It's got a little hole back here for the viewfinder. You can put your camera in here like this. You can cinch up this over top, and what you've got is you've got your camera nice covered. There's room to get your hands in here, so you can control your dials, you can change everything, you have access to everything. Helps keep the front of the lens protected, and it's a great way to go. Like I said, this is my preferred method. They're cheap, you can get them on Amazon. I'll link to them down in the description below, but this is my preferred method. It just works better for me. So maybe you're in a pinch, you haven't had time to order anything, but you got a morning to go out, or it's unexpectedly raining on a trip. A gallon-sized Ziploc bag can work out great. Really, what you can do is a couple different ways. I've seen people do it different ways. I don't use a Ziploc bag a lot, but in a pinch it would work. You could cut a hole in the end, then poke your lens through the end, just a little bit on that side. Gives you the protection, gives you access into here, no problem. I've also seen people put their camera in reverse like this and then use their controls through the plastic bag. But like I said, in a pinch, this is great. Other things that can work, one of those plastic grocery bags can work. You're just trying to shelter your camera a little bit, or even something like a shower cap. You can toss it on. I've got a buddy that recommends a shower cap. Again, they're nice, small, cheap, portable, and they can just provide that little bit of extra protection. Like I said, in a heavy downpour, I would even protect this with a rain sleeve. Okay, and if I know it's gonna be raining a lot or a good chance of heavier rains during the day, I'll take an umbrella. This can be a handy way to keep yourself protected. It gives a nice big area. I lean towards the golf umbrella sized, a little bulkier to carry, but they really give you a lot of protection. In this particular case, I can get set up right over the camera. I'm protecting me, my head, my camera, everything from rain. And I can easily get up here and adjust camera controls. Once I get things set up anyways, once I get the camera up on the tripod, I have full controls. Everything I can pretty much do from my right hand. I can switch hands if I need to, and it makes it super convenient, and it's a good way to keep heavy rain off of your gear, especially if it's just sort of a short downpour or something like that, where you don't want to get all the gear, all the rain sleeves set up. Now, I've seen a lot of people recommend you can get like a tripod attachment for your umbrella, but to me, that just doesn't work. I'm gonna put this here. This is gonna act like a sail and it's gonna shake my tripod. So that just hurts my images if the wind is catching my umbrella and shaking my tripod. I just don't find that really worth it. So I avoid that form of attachment to the tripod. I don't want those shaky images, but this works just fine. The other thing you can do is look for makeshift shelters where you're at. One of the areas I like to photograph, it has lots of gorges and lots of low overhangs. So if it starts to rain, or I know it's gonna start to rain, I might choose a location where I can sort of seek a little bit of shelter. That often works out very well. Sometimes even heavy tree cover. It's early spring now, so we don't really have that heavy tree cover, but in the summer, when you get a summer rain, a lot of times if you can find a heavy tree cover, you're gonna get sprinkled on, but the heavier rain's getting blocked by the trees. So if you're out, it starts to rain, just look for other forms of shelter, even if you don't take an umbrella along. So rainy weather or snowy weather is another case where a lens hood can be very helpful. The lens hood sort of fits on here and it'll provide some shelter, some relief from the rain. It'll help minimize the amount of drops. It's not going to eliminate it. Rain can still blow in, can come in from the sides. And on wide angle lenses, their hoods aren't quite as deep, whereas the telephoto is pretty deep. So this probably works a little better for a standard zoom or a telephoto lens where the hood is much bigger versus a wide angle, but even a little bit can help. Now, I don't use a lot of lens hoods. I use a lot of filters and step-up rings that make using lens hoods a little problematic, so I don't really use them a lot. And as you can see, I actually don't have one in my bag, so I don't have this right here to demonstrate here. But if you're a lens hood user or have them, they can be a really handy way. I know I've been out photographing in the snow, for example, no lens hood and getting big old snowflakes on the end of the lens element, and having a lens hood would have helped prevent that, or at least minimize that. So don't forget your lens hood. If you're going out photographing in the rain, it can help provide that little bit of extra protection to the front lens element from water drops. So whether you're using a lens hood or not, keep a dry cloth available. You're gonna get raindrops on the end of your lens element and it's gonna be good to wipe them off. So there's a couple things I carry depending on what. I almost always have a microfiber cloth like this. This is a nice big one. It makes it super easy to wipe drops off. You can also use a rocket blower to sort of push the water off the front lens element. Both handy tools to have and both near essentials if you're out in the rain. Otherwise, you're gonna be trying to clean up raindrops off of your images while you're shooting in the rain. So nice little cloth like this. In addition to something for your lens like that, if it's really gonna be raining and I know the camera's gonna get wet, despite having weather sealed gear, I do like to try to, I don't really want the water sitting on it if I can help it. So I'll bring a larger cloth like this just to sort of wipe the camera down, just to give it a little bit of a break. Like I said, so if I know it's gonna be out raining, larger cloth like this is super handy to just sort of keep that camera stuff dry. And also, especially before you put it back in the bag, make sure you wipe it down, wipe it off, put it in the bag as dry as possible. So you're not putting super wet camera equipment in the bag. Use a cloth, wipe it down. In addition to a cloth, just a little bonus tip is sometimes I'll even take my hat off and use it on the camera, especially if I've forgotten something or I don't have a towel to drape over it. I will set this on top of the camera and let it shelter the camera. I've done it a couple times. Especially when I have a jacket like this with a hood where I can sort of keep my head protected anyways. So that can be a handy trick. Again, weather sealing is great, but I figure better safe than sorry, and I do try to protect it. And if you're using a non-weather sealed camera, this cloth tricks and things like that, trying to keep that camera dry using cloths, covering it with a hat, the umbrella, all of that is important stuff. And I know I said this was gonna be 5 essential tips, but I've got a bonus tip for you. I just mentioned about putting wet camera gear into the camera bag. And one of the things you can do to help minimize some of the humidity, some of the moisture that's going in here, is I tend to toss these little silica gel packets into my camera bag in various spots. I just sort of toss them in there, and what they'll do is they'll sort of soak up some of the excess moisture. Now, this is no replacement for getting home and taking good care of your camera bag, making sure it's dry, letting it dry out. There have been cases, especially at West Virginia one time, we were out in some really heavy rains. I didn't have my rain cover on my camera bag and I was moving wet camera equipment in and out. Even wiping it down didn't really help. So when I got home, my camera bag was pretty wet. Even on the inside, it was certainly damp. So, you know, I took the time to pull the insert out, pull the gear out, let it all dry out to get it nice and dry. But for while you're sort of traveling from place to place, this stuff can just help minimize, help pull the moisture out. So like I said, you can stick them in your camera bag, stick them outside the core unit, stick them in some pockets. One word of warning though, if something like this actually gets wet, I have had one of these sort of break, the paper part has disintegrated, and then I have these silica gel pellets wandering all over my camera bag. So do be careful of that, but it's not a bad idea to keep some of these silica gel packets around. But it's no substitute for getting home and really making sure your camera bag is nice, dry, and all back to good shape. So those are my 5 essential tips for helping keep your camera gear safe in the rain. Like I said, these tips are what I'm going to be sending to my workshop clients to sort of help prep them. And it's going to work for them whether they're using weather sealed camera bodies or whether they're using starter cameras. All of it's going to work, all of it applies, and it should help keep their camera gear safe out in the rain, and it should help your camera gear when you're out there. Don't let the rain keep you from getting out. That's some of the best times to go out and photograph. There's some really great conditions you can get. Just take a couple extra steps, follow these tips, and it'll help keep your gear safe. So hopefully you found that helpful, and if you did and you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see future landscape photography content from me, including tips, tricks, behind the scenes, mini gear reviews, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and thank you for watching.